Let me ask you something. Would you ever buy a house just based on what the real estate agent wrote in the brochure, without actually walking through it yourself? Of course not. That sounds crazy, right? You'd want to kick the tires, check the foundation, see if there are any hidden cracks. And yet, believe it or not, a whopping 95% of investors do the financial version of exactly that. We buy into companies based on hype, a good story, or a hot tip, without ever bothering to look inside. So today on The Explainer, we're going to change that. We're gearing up and becoming financial detectives. We're going to learn how to dust for fingerprints and find the hidden clues in a company's financial statements to uncover the real story. Okay, so our first piece of business is to understand this mystery. The big difference between someone who speculates, who just acts on opinions and stories, and a true investor who acts on cold, hard facts. And where do you find those facts? Right here. See, a company's financial statements are its autobiography, written by the company itself. You can forget the news headlines, forget the market chatter. This is where the business tells you its own story. You gotta learn how to read it. Now, every detective has a toolkit, and ours has 3 main items. Each one gives you a totally different view of the business. And when you put them all together, you get the complete picture of what's really going on. First up is the balance sheet. I want you to think of this as the snapshot. It literally freezes the company in a single moment in time and shows you exactly what it owns and what it owes on one specific day. It's a static picture of its financial health. And at the very heart of that snapshot is this golden rule. This simple equation it must always be true. Everything a company owns, its assets, had to come from somewhere, right? It was either bought with borrowed money, that's liabilities, or with the owner's own cash, that's equity. It has to balance, no exceptions. So if the balance sheet is a still photo, then the profit and loss statement, or P&L for short, well, that's the movie. It shows you all the action over a period of time, like a quarter or a whole year. Was it a profitable blockbuster hit, or was it a money-losing flop? The P&L gives you the bottom line. And that brings us to our third and maybe most critical tool for any truth-seeking detective, the cash flow statement. I call this one the reality check. Why? Because it completely ignores all the fancy accounting theories and just follows the actual physical cash. Where did real money come from, and where did it actually go? All right, so we have our 3 files spread out on the desk. But a smart detective knows that not all evidence is created equal. One of these clues, well, it's way more reliable than the others. It's the one that's the hardest to fake. I want you to burn this phrase into your brain. It's one of the great secrets of Wall Street. Profit is an opinion, cash is a fact. Now that might sound a little strange at first, but really getting this one idea is what separates the pros from the amateurs. So how can profit be an opinion? Well, because accountants have flexibility. They can use certain rules to decide when to recognize a sale, even if the cash hasn't come in yet. But cash doesn't lie. It's the actual money that hits the bank account, the money that pays salaries and buys new equipment. You can't really fake the cash in your bank account. Okay, let's take a quick look at a company. We'll call it Web Cornucopia. See where their cash came from. A decent chunk came from their actual operations, their day-to-day business. But look, more of it came from financing. That means they had to borrow money or sell off parts of the company. That's a huge clue. It tells you right away that they're relying on outsiders to fund their growth, not their own business. All right, now that you know the tools and you know that cash is the most important clue, it's time to assemble your official financial detective kit. This is how you start putting all this knowledge into practice and spotting the things that everyone else misses. So what are you looking for? Think of this as your red flag checklist. For instance, see this one here, cash flow divergence? If you see that profit is consistently way higher than the cash the company is making from its operations, that's a massive warning sign. It could mean those profits aren't really turning into spendable money, or a liquidity crunch. If their current ratio drops below 1, they might not be able to pay their bills. These are the clues that tell you something might be wrong under the surface.
But hey, you're not just looking for bad news. You're also hunting for green flags, signs of a really strong company. And this is one of the best signs you can find. When a company's net cash from operations is a lot higher than its reported profit, that means this business is a cash-generating machine. It's fantastic at turning its profits into cold, hard cash.
And this all comes together into a disciplined process. A real investigation isn't about one number. It's about really understanding the business, looking at trends over several years, checking the quality of that cash flow, and, this is huge, always reading the footnotes. That's where all the secrets are buried. This is the framework that turns you from a gambler into an analyst. So, you've got the tools. You know the most important clue is cash. You have a process to follow. What does this all add up to? Well, it completely changes the way you look at the market. This is the transformation. You go from being a speculator, someone just gambling on hype and headlines, to being an investor. An investor is a detective. You gather the evidence, you analyze the facts, and you make your move based on a deep understanding of the situation. You start acting with confidence, not just hope. And that's the real takeaway from our explainer today. This one skill, it's the biggest dividing line there is between amateur guesswork and professional level investing. It gives you the power to see the reality hiding behind the hype. So, you have the magnifying glass, you've got the fingerprint kit, you have the investigative framework. There's really only one question left. Where are you going to start? Which company's autobiography will you be the first to crack open and investigate for yourself? The clues are out there, waiting for you.